Project Management for the Masses podcast, episode 73. Corporate Culture with Evan McBroom.
Project managers, have you ever felt like you should get that promotion or a better job? Start a business, write that book. Have you ever felt you were made for more but didn't know where to start?
Welcome to the PM for the Masses podcast with your host, Caesar Abaid.
Learn from the experts, think outside the box, have a voice, network, and be extraordinary.
PM for the Masses podcast.
Well, hello everyone and welcome. I'm Caesar Abaid, your host, and this show is your weekly reminder that your career matters more than your job and that your life is a project and you are the manager. Whether you work for a company or for yourself, your job stability is really just your ability to land your next gig. So, join me once again in practicing intentional, planned, and value-adding relevance, starting right now. Well, first of all, let me wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday season to all of you. It is the end of the year here, 2014. I record this December 21st, I believe is today, 2014, and Christmas is fast approaching. In fact, tomorrow morning I'm flying out to meet my family in Seattle for the holidays and looking forward to that. And I'd like to, before we get started today, just wanted to give you a quick update on what's been going on. As you may have noticed, I haven't put out a show in a few weeks. In fact, ever since the end of the Kickstarter campaign, if you've been following the podcast, I haven't been able to do a show. And this really bothered me, but it seems like the universe is waiting for me to be done with that campaign to just drop a whole lot of things on my head and on my lap. As soon as the campaign was over, we got a contract which took me to the east end of Labrador here in Canada, which is a very remote area of the country. If you're not from Canada, you might not understand how big Canada is. Canada is the second largest country in the world, just behind Russia in terms of area. And this location is it's really remote. And for reasons that do not matter here, we had to drive. We had to drive there. So it was, I was out for 9 days and I couldn't do anything related to podcasting. Even my book writing process was suffered during that time. And then as soon as I came back, family was sick, and then I got sick, and we also got some new contracts, which had me on the road a lot, and I just could not do the podcast, and I'm really sorry about that. I know that some of you have reached out and asked me if I was okay, if things were going well, and things actually were going well. It's just that I just did not have the opportunity to sit here and record, and but this is about to change. As you can tell, this is a new episode 73, and in the new year I have some awesome new episodes coming your way. And this is the last episode for 2014, and I'll come back as soon as the New Year's Eve celebrations are over with episode 74. Now, how about we stop with the explanations and the apologies, and how about we get started?
Special guest coming up next. PMforthemasses.com. PMforthemasses.com.
Evan McBroom is founder of Fishhook, a marketing communications and creative services company. He is dedicated to serving as a communications partner and resource with churches and faith-based organizations. He combines the passion of his faith journey with the expertise he gained during his 14-year career at a large corporate communication and marketing agency to provide clients with senior-level communications consultation. His company, Fishhook, is known for its culture, one that delivers incredible results, low turnover, and raving fans. And since this is the Christmas special, we do talk a little bit here and there about faith and how he plays a role in the way he manages and the way the culture of his company is shaped. And we'll touch on that. I hope you don't mind. And Evan is on the line with me today from his home in Indiana. Good evening, Evan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Caesar?
I'm doing well. It's great to have you on the show. Thank you for coming.
It's good to be here. I'm excited about it. I've had a really good full day, and now I'm just kind of relaxed and ready to chat.
Well, Merry Christmas. It's the Christmas season. It's the holiday season, and this is it's my Christmas end of the year special. And I thought this would be a great topic, and you'd be the perfect guest to talk about it here on the show. So thank you again.
Well, I'm honored. Is that because you know that I do have a Santa Claus suit and I dress up a few times a year?
You know, I learned about that after I had invited you, and that's made it even better.
Right. Good.
Now, Evan, the listeners might not, well, they definitely do not know, but we are in a little group, I guess you would call.
Right.
We meet every other week virtually over video conferencing, and we talk about business, we talk about life. We call it a mastermind group. And I've always been impressed at how you handle business and your outlook on life in general, and also work-life balance, things like that. So I thought we talk about corporate culture here today, and also your take on this whole thing. So what do you say?
I'm excited about it. I it's one of the great joys of what I get to do as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, is to lead the way with company culture. I think there's probably no more important thing that I get to do for the team. And so I'm excited. I've mostly learned from, my mistakes, other mistakes I've been part of. So grateful to have learned along the way.
So why not start by telling us a little bit about you and about Fishhook and what you do specifically? Sure.
Well, first me, I just turned 50 years old this year, and, big milestone. So the highlights of my year right now, kind of we'll take a snapshot of me right now. I completed my first full marathon this year, so that was a big deal. I've been married to my wife, Debbie, for 27 years, 28 years. We were talking the other day, we're kind of in the series of years where you lose track a little bit. I have 2 college-age daughters, one who will graduate this May and is heading to Nashville, Tennessee, and will hope to become a songwriter. And if she is a songwriter, she'll hope to blossom her career there. I have another daughter who's a student in college. She's a college swimmer, super dedicated, focused, disciplined, and she's just a lot of fun. She's at home. Both the girls are home on Christmas break, so that makes the house a little more warm and exciting. I have a son who's in high school, and he's a sophomore. So my wife and I are kind of heading towards empty nest, but we have, we really need to also really just focus on Blaine and his time that he has left with us. He's a bunch of laughs and a lot of fun. So that's a little snapshot of kind of our current home life. Let's see, what else would be helpful? I think, it's important to know that I had kind of a big career before this career. For 14 years, I started out as an entry-level sales guy, became head of sales, and then eventually general manager of about a 40-person ad agency or communications agency. A lot of pressure, a lot of overhead, a lot of people, and a good amount of stress. At the same time, a lot of money, a new company car every couple of years, and all the trappings that went with it, a vacation home, a big house in the suburbs, but a constant kind of sense personally and within the company that, whatever we have is never enough, like a complete lack of contentment. And I was completely caught up in that. So I'm not throwing stones. I was right there. And we had big corporate clients, and we did all kind of corporate communications for them. And I loved it. So it was lots of creative freedom, lots of leadership freedom. And my wife and I these days call those days the fat days. So that's a little kind of work history. There's a big transition, but we'll come to that a little bit later. And then kind of my work now. I lead a 13-person team. We've grown in the last 18 months from 6 people to 13, and so corporate culture, our culture here, has been a big topic of discussion. It always is, but especially right now. How in 18 months we've more than doubled in size, and how do we hang on to what really is key and critical around here in terms of what it feels like to work at Fishhook and be part of the team. Our work is very similar to the work I did before. We do organizational communications, coaching and consulting. We do branding and identity work, logo development and all the consistency that comes with a strong brand. We We do web development. We have graphic designers and web folks on our team. Our clients, though, this is the niche. Our clients are all faith-based organizations, and specifically churches. We're in we have clients in about 17 states throughout the United States, and way open, especially if somebody would want us to go to Hawaii. We're ready for that next state for sure. And so most of our clients are individual churches, anywhere from an 80-person church in a rural setting, small town, to big multi-site mega churches, 10,000 plus on a weekend with 6 or 7 locations around a large suburban area. And so we really get to combine some things that are important within each of our own faiths, like our faith, the faith that we bring to work, and our wiring and our professional experience and background. And it's super fun work that we feel we get a strong sense of our purpose in life and realizing that there's an impact that's being made that's meaningful to us.
Mm-hmm. Now, you refer to the old days at the fat days. So, is it fair to assume that now today is not as fat as those days?
No, it's not.
So, was that a deliberate choice to do something that would be maybe less rewarding financially speaking, but with more purpose?
Well, it was a result. It was not the choice. I knew it was likely to be a result of what I was feeling and what I was experiencing. And so just a quick snapshot of that. In 2002, I was sensing what I can just best describe as a restlessness in my work. This job that I'd loved, I didn't love anymore. I used to be, even with the stress, excited to go to work. And, there were mornings where I just would have my head against the wall in the shower thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to go to work? And do I have it in me? And I think there were some things changing inside of me, kind of priorities and what was important. And so, this restlessness, I started talking with people and I talked to a pastor at my church. And I assume since we're in our Christmas special and you've asked me to talk, we can kind of wander down a little bit of this
that's
conversation around faith. And maybe like somebody's crazy uncle that they have that's listening, the best I can describe it is I sensed a call to ministry. And that's what one of my pastors helped me identify, as I described what was going on inside of me and just feeling like I'm not supposed to be doing this anymore. I think there's something else, something with greater purpose. And to use, language I'm real comfortable with, but not everybody is, that I believe that, God had some other plan for Evan McBroom. And I had to figure out what that was. And so because there were 40 people. This was just, a year or so after 9/11. People were counting on me to run the show and, make a profit and make sure we had business coming in. But my mind and my heart were already gone. And so with so much writing on that and wanting to, be a good employee, which I no longer was, I walked away from that job. So I stepped out in faith. I quit that job. And I thought, Caesar, that I was either heading to seminary. I was going to go be a teaching pastor, or I was going to be work in a church in communication, or maybe lead a faith-based not-for-profit. And so what I eventually discovered was those were not the things. What I eventually discovered was I had this background and this wiring and this experience to do very much the same kind of work I had done for corporate clients, but now for the church. And people who knew what was going on in churches across America were saying, a lot of churches need help in this way. And so the moment that we contemplated me quitting my job and walking away from it, we knew at that moment we were taking all that material stuff, the lake home, the big house, all those things. And we were setting the stage that we might have to sell that stuff and walk away from it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So let's talk a little bit then about corporate culture. And a lot of people, a lot of business owners out there, they talk a lot about that, about work-life balance for their people and creating culture and things like that. Right. But we've known each other for a while now, and we talk about business all the time. And I can tell that your people talk a lot about the culture at Fish Hook. Mm-hmm. You talk about work-life balance and that. Fish Hook is a place that basically delivers on that, that balance that people want. So what is that culture like? can you explain to us how it is that works, that it
Sure.
works down there?
You bet. It's a lot of things. It's and I'll just kind of let me bring up some words that bubble to the surface, and then you can kind of help, drill down into some of these with me. I think transparency is a big one. Transparency about, what I know, what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking in my head, the details about the business. These are not things that I feel like as the owner and the entrepreneur that I need to hold on to privately. That many of the things that many business owners would be afraid to share, I share. And we talk about just significant things about our lives. So it's not just me being transparent with them, it's everyone being transparent with each other. So that's one. I would say another one, and there's a few phrases around here that we use. One of them is, we have a work where you want, when you want culture. And especially that was easy when we were small. And for some people, 13 people is still tiny, but for us, 13 is big. So work where you want, when you want, is all about empowering the employee to kind of figure out what's the best way, place, time for them to work. Now, that doesn't mean, we don't have times where we have to come together, and it doesn't mean we don't have to respond to customer requests to be certain places at certain times. But for me, it's a huge priority, and I think a lot of business owners kind of want this for themselves. The business owner, the leader, they want to be able to check out early to go meet up with friends, to have a drink, or they want to check out early to go to their kids' soccer event or school event, or they want to get their haircut on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and that's kind of the privilege of ownership, that you get all that flexibility. Well, I want that for everybody. I want everybody to have control over their own schedule and how they spend their time. Now, we do have kind of agreements and conversations about, are you full-time flex or part-time flex? So that's, are you working 20 to 30 hours a week, or are you working 30 to 40 plus hours a week? And this is beautiful because, some people, they do really well working in their office, but, maybe on a Thursday afternoon, they just want to go work at the public library and find a cup of coffee and a quiet place to work. Or maybe, one of our, Leah, who's been with us for a long, long time, who's been with me a long time, she really wants to be at the school bus many days to get her kids off the bus at 2:30. So Leah puts in a great day till 2:10. She bolts home. She meets the school bus. And then you see Leah pop back online about 9 o'clock, and she works for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and knocks things out. And so this work where you want, when you want culture is a big, big deal. I guess I said I was going to mention a bunch of words, but I kind of went ahead and down that one. I would say there's a big, there's a culture or a spirit of food. Of generosity about food. And this is something I learned where I worked before. This is probably one of the best lessons, and that is, and if you study Jesus's life, whether, from a scholarly, the writing standpoint, or whether you're, doing it from, a real point of kind of scriptural or spiritual exploration, you're going to see that guy was eating meals with people all the time. So something, and we know this in business, we know in business, the good things happen when we get our customers around the table. Well, we eat together as a team every Monday. And if people are in the office working away on a Wednesday, and they're all billable and they're all sitting at their desk, they're working away or they're in meetings, I'm going to order lunch, and I'm going to bring, there's a spirit of generosity around food and time. And to me, it costs anywhere from, $100 to $150 to feed the whole gang when we order in from a deli or something. Well, that's well worth it. They stay focused. They feel rewarded and loved. And so I would say food is a big piece, the generosity around food, transparency. I'll talk about that a little bit more. I think the piece about work where you want, when you want is a huge piece. I think there's also a big part about leadership and realizing that many people here have leadership qualities within them, and I want to pour into them. And as a small business that was built around a guy, built around, me starting the thing, we work really hard every day to make this place less and less Evan-centric. And so that means, pushing away from me the leadership responsibilities, the tasks, the things that normally the owner would hold on to. I'm trying to push those things out and help people grow and personally and professionally.
Mm-hmm. Now, quickly there, the whole thing about working where you want, when you want it. I mean, we're a small company as well, and I get to do that, and it's great. Sometimes I just need to go sit in a coffee shop and be productive there. Why do you think that people are resistant to implementing that in this day and age?
Yeah, I think it has to do with our pay structure, and I think it has to do with trust. And we have a high degree of trust, and we have a unique pay structure here that works. There are companies that have tried the salaried approach where you tell people, you're going to make X amount per year. Here's your work you got to get done. You can work 30 hours or 50 hours a week. We don't care. You can come in when you want. You can take as much vacation time as all that. And I think it's been shown that doesn't necessarily work. And there's a bunch of blogs out there kind of exploring that. Here's what happens, I think, let me touch on this. Here's how we pay. This is a big deal. We pay hourly. Everybody's hourly. And because we pay hourly, and we bill hourly, and so employees are used to tracking their time for billing clients, and then they track their time when they're doing non-billable activities. There's never this feeling that I have as the owner, the entrepreneur, am I getting my money's worth? Where is everybody? It's Friday afternoon. Where is everybody? It's the hourly pay structure empowers people to make their own determination around how much they want to make, how hard they want to work. There are seasons where we're busy, where everybody has to make decisions to work more hours. And there's seasons where we're less busy that they work less. And so there's a variability to their income that they've become comfortable with. We've all become comfortable with. But I think it has to do with, I guess the word that comes to mind is this kind of 9-to-5 corporate culture is built out of, this industrial age and, shifts that had to take place, and you had to have somebody on the line at a certain time. And I think it has to do with an overwhelming sense of scarcity. Scarcity versus a climate or culture of generosity. And so I want to be generous with people being able to have control or decisions around their time and life. And we've developed a pay structure that works that way and a culture that works that way. Mm-hmm. I think the hesitancy has to do with a lack of trust and a sense of scarcity. And is somebody going to be taking advantage of, is one party going to be, well, let me say it this way. My sister was a real estate attorney. And if I can use this language, she said, in real estate, there's 3 contracts. There's screw the tenant, screw the landlord, and then, we got to find one in the middle. And I think that's the fear, is that somebody's going to come up on the short end of the stick. And so we're going to live by rigid rules of time.
Mm-hmm. Like resources and fulfillment is a zero sum when it's not.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Now, you talked about faith, and I think, I'm sure you've heard this before too, that one thing that really helps with culture is when everybody on the team, when there's a shared goal or a shared purpose or and then everybody gets together behind that idea. How important do you think the fact that you are a person of faith, helping other people of faith, how important do you think that is in forming the culture?
I'd like to, for the listeners who don't have that as a part of their collective culture, I'd love to say it's not a big deal. I think it is, but I'd love for us I want to kind of explore, if it's not that pulls you together, what is it? So I do think that, we're in an environment where, because our clients are pastors and churches, and our team, we're all people of faith. So, we pray before our meals here. We pray before our meetings here. We pray with our clients at the beginning and the end of a meeting. We're praying all the time. And the Bible says pray without ceasing. Well, we do that. And so I think it's a big deal, and I think it has to do with the trust, and I know it has to do with the fact that the kind of folks we that we hire, and I don't mean that we hire every person of faith, every Christian. People have to have a strong faith journey to be here. They need to have incredible competency to be here, and they need to have great character, and they need to be really likable people. There's a likable people part that I'll come back to. So it's not that because we're people of faith we're perfect, and it's not that because we're people of faith we never lie or cheat we're just not perfect. That's not the way it works. But we have a transparency that we can talk about things of faith, and it does unify us. And we are out for the collective good of something that's bigger than us, bigger than our clients. We're out to serve not only each individual client, but the church as a whole. And so that does mean a lot. But I think business owners can identify, what is the noble virtue? What are the noble virtues of delivering with excellence the thing that they do for their clients? And can we rally around the vision of those noble virtues? And so, where we have virtues that are based on our faith, can you find virtues that are just simple to articulate and that resonate with the entrepreneur or the owner, and that they can be breathed out onto the rest of the people? And you talk about them. You have to talk about this stuff all the time. So that's, I believe that leaders can inspire their folks toward noble virtues, even if and for that, there's a cause greater than any individual person.
Mm-hmm. I see. So I'm thinking here from the point of view of the project manager. So sometimes they're not in charge of the company, but they are in charge of a team. Sometimes, a lot of times, they're not in charge of the projects that they get to manage. They're just assigned to a specific project that may be less than inspiring, or something that maybe they even have a hard time believing in as something of value. So that's a great insight. Trying to find the noble virtue that you'd like to embody as you deliver that service or product, and then talk about it. So, how do you talk about it?
How do we talk about the noble virtues?
Yes.
Wow. And I'm trying where you had my mind spinning is how would I if I couldn't find those redeeming, we have things that we would feel are like really redeeming qualities about the work that we do. And so how do we talk about it? We would talk about, and I'll try to put this in the most comfortable language I can. Our clients, the pastors and the staff on their church, and the people that go to those churches, with much of what's in them, they want more people to be on a faith journey. So it's not about we want more people to come to our church for our budget. It's not we want more people to come to our church so we can be bigger than the church down the street. Our clients feel there's something really strong and powerful and redeeming by having a strong faith and believing in these things larger than what we experience, in our everyday life. And so, or in our non, if we're not a person of faith. And so they want that badly, and our team wants that badly. So we all come together saying, we want more people to be in a relationship with God. And so we're all going to work with everything we've got to bring our integrity and our creativity. And so we talk about that a lot. If I was a project manager and my project had nothing to do with, things of faith, I think it would be about, even in spite of the fact that I might not love the project, the client might get under my skin, or the people, there's something great about going home at the end of the day and laying your head on the pillow and knowing that you've done a really good job, that in spite of those things, you've done a great job. And sometimes you have to use all kind of tactics, to get there. And I think it's about what can you put out in front of your team that is the thing worth fighting for and the thing worth doing great work on or about for this project. We just talk openly about what the vision and the goal is of our shared thing that we have with our clients. And for us, that's more people having their forevers changed by being in a relationship with God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whether, for the listener, whether there are people of faith or not, I think it's an important exercise in everyone's life to think of where do I fit in something that's bigger than myself, and
right.
And it could be your faith or whatever, it could be your principles or something that you are aiming to be, or some higher state that you want to take yourself and your team with you. And in your case, it's obviously faith based.
Right.
But I think for those who are not in that journey or not yet in that journey, I think you can emulate that by adopting something else. But you gotta have that something that is bigger than you, that you try to achieve. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. And I didn't grow up in the church, so I'm 50 now. It wasn't until I was in my late 20s, like 28 or 29, that my life turned in this direction. And so I'm, as we're chatting, I'm thinking about, well, what were those things, that I wanted to do really well, and there were just, in my career, I was a sales guy. I found it really exciting to help a client solve a problem that they didn't know how to solve, that I could harness a team, the client had a need. And, in that case, it might have been selling widgets or, selling a service. And, I didn't necessarily have to have passion about that. But my passion came from, they've got a problem they can't figure out. Through the lens of my experience or my skills, I know how to help them fix that or solve that. And I'm going to harness even as a sales guy, I had to figure out who on the team am I going to pull together, and how are we going to budget this thing out? And how are we going to present this in a way that they get excited about, that we can help? And so, maybe the noble goal or the virtue then was solving the problem that they couldn't solve themselves. And in that way, boil it down to basic humanity. I'm helping humanity. And then there was this awesome thing that when they said yes, I would get in my car, and I called it pounding the steering wheel. I'd be so excited that they said yes, and they were going to, and I would just go quietly in my car and pound, 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 pound. And that was that celebration to say, this is worth doing. This is good. And so, and I, just as you talk, it really struck me when you said, folks don't get to pick their team necessarily always, and they don't get to pick the projects. And it just comes to mind, I heard a story a while back, and sometimes you have to turn those aggravations into a game. I heard a former director of training for Disney, for Walt Disney World, speak, and he talked about, like, one of the things that happens is employees in the parks can get overwhelmed by the number of kind of ridiculous questions they get over and over and over again. And that probably happens, in lots of work settings, but, tons of people asking frustrating and aggravating questions. And in their environment, it's the happiest place on earth, right?
Right.
So apparently there would be work teams that back in the break room behind the fences and behind the curtains, they would have a little dry erase board, and periodically they'd have a contest. Okay, today our contest is who can get the most aggravating questions. Well, now they're on the lookout for them. They're delivering better service because they are looking for the frustrating questions and then coming back and putting hash marks on the wall. So, maybe there's a way to take that thing that's an aggravation and turn it around for the team. Let's make a game out of this.
Awesome. That's a great example.
And let me say that this is another thing, and this radiates probably from me, but I let my personality show through at work, and I would say that's part of the culture here as well. And so I would encourage people, let your own personality come out, and that will set the tone for your team. And so around here we do try to have a lot of laughter and a lot of fun, and we're not afraid. I don't think the laughter and the fun hurts the process. I think it helps the process. So.
That is great. So do you think, how would you describe then success for you? What does it look like?
success. And I was actually I was interviewed about a year after starting Fishhook, and a magazine, kind of a faith in the workplace magazine, did this interview, and they asked that question, and the answer that came to my head then I've stuck with the last 11 years. For me, success looks like seamlessness, and what that means is that I can strive to be. I want to be the same guy at work, at home, and at church. And so those three important areas of my life, I want to be able to be the same guy, act the same way, make decisions the same way, have the same priorities. And I want that, for my people as well. And I think a lot of people try to compartmentalize their life. This whole notion of work-life balance. I think it's kind of BS. I don't think it's about work-life balance. I think it's about life. And it's not work-life. Like, work is part of my life. Home is part of my. These are the parts of my life. So success for me is being the same guy in all those settings. And I would say I'm probably the worst guy. Like, the worst version of me is probably at home. Those that we're closest with, we tend to lose our patience with the most. We're short-tempered, or and so that's probably the area in my life where I need to continue to try to be, just a better guy, a guy that I'd be happy. Sometimes you think, oh man, that interaction I just had with my kids, if there was a hidden camera on this, I bet that would have been ugly. If I lost my temper, I'm shouting in the car or whatever. So, but success for me is just that word. It's seamlessness, and that is countercultural. And I still want the stuff. We sold the lake home, we sold the boat, we downsized our house, and so there's stuff. That balance for contentment is always a big deal, but seamlessness.
That's great. Evan, this is some great food for thought, and I know the project managers were taking notes there, and I know I was inspired by what you said here, and I'm always inspired by what you have to say. So it's great. Now, if people want to learn more about you and Fishhook, where should they go?
Yep, I would direct folks to fishhook.us. That's FISHHOOK.us. You can find me on Twitter at Evan. It's just at Evan McBroom, EVAN MCBROOM, and the same on Instagram. And we live our life pretty transparently. If folks want to read more about this, if they go to the fishhook.us site and find our blog, just do a search for there's the series we did called the Fishhook Vibe. It's the series of 5 or 6 different blog posts. They're a couple years old, but the culture still holds up. The content still holds up. And that will really kind of break this down into a number of different topics, and is probably some of our most popular content. And it really has nothing to do with how we solve our clients' problems, but it's been good stuff.
Yeah, and I recommend you who are listening right now to go and connect with Evan. Evan is a very accessible guy and very resourceful too, and you can tell it's a great vibe around him, and and I think that says a lot about the about the company culture as well. Evan, thank you so much for your time. I hope you and your family and all of your peeps there at Fishhook have a wonderful Christmas season, and we'll stay in touch.
You bet. And I would just wish your listeners a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, whatever you're celebrating this season. May it be rich for you and your family, and for you as well, Caesar. Thanks.
You are listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Evan McBroom. Evan is a good friend, as you can tell, and he's just one of those people that it's great to have around because his energy is so positive, and he's a guy with a purpose, and really, I really recommend you have people like Evan in your life because they really pull you up and help shape your own culture as you go by your professional life. I think one of the main things here from our conversation is it's a sense of purpose, and I really wish for you in this Christmas season, this holiday season, that if you haven't found yet a higher purpose for your life, for your career, that you use this time of the year now to look inwards. look at your family and friends, maybe perhaps your spouse and your children. Look around you and see, what am I here for? And then see if we can find that within you, some purpose, something that's bigger than yourself, because that will come out of your pores, and that's gonna be contagious to those around you, and it's only gonna improve you, improve your effectiveness as a leader when you have that purpose behind you. So I'm not saying you should go and join a church, but you need. I really believe that we all need something that's bigger than ourselves, that we are willing to live for. And Evan is a great example of a guy who really lives there, that calling. So feel free to connect with him. I'm going to have a link to Fishhook on the show notes for today's episode, which is episode 73. And there you have it. Now, if you are in a giving mode this holiday season, and you're willing to make a difference in someone's life, I just wanted to share with you a cause that is really close to my heart. The name of this organization is Reese's Rainbow, and they are advocates for children who need families, children who are waiting to be adopted, and specifically children who have special needs. We live in funny times now, where there is many parents waiting in line to adopt a child, and we have many children waiting in line for parents. And what Reese's Rainbow does is they help with fundraising for these children, because I had no idea until I came upon them, that there are countless families that are dying to adopt children with special needs, either in Canada, the US, or abroad, but they cannot afford the costs. So we have children in countries where they can't really be provided for appropriately. Their special needs are not being met. Some of these children have spent their entire lives indoors, or in a crib, and they never see the sun. They don't have any family. They are never taken out. They don't learn how to walk. And you look at them, you think they're 2-year-old, and they're 10. It's quite a situation. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have loving families who are dying to adopt these kids, and because of the international cost of adoption, they can't. So what Reese's Rainbow does is they match these families, and they raise funds for specific children. So you can go to their website, and you are able to see the children. Their names are changed for privacy concerns, but you can see their picture. You can see a little bit of their story, and some of these stories are heartbreaking. And I just warn you, when you go to the website and you look into these children's faces, you might be captivated, and they might steal your heart. So this is a cause that is really close to our hearts here in our house. Myself and my wife, we advocate for these children, and they always need a little bit of donations here and there. So once they reach a certain amount, then they're free to be adopted. And some of these children, there are situations that are very urgent, because once they reach a certain age, depending on what country they're in, then they need to be moved from the institution where they are waiting to be adopted to mental institutions and after that point they're not adoptable anymore, and then they're really condemned to a lifetime of neglect, if you will, in these institutions. So some of them are more urgent than others, and as I said, there are families waiting for them. It's not like they need families. It's just that they need the funds. So the URL for their website is reesesrainbow.org, and I'm going to have a link to them on the show notes for today's episode. So pmforthemasses.com/73. You will find the link there, and you'll be able to see all the children. You'll be able to make a donation there, and any small amount donation will count, and it's badly needed. So again, if you are feeling in that giving mode this holiday season, and you're looking for a place to make a difference, that's definitely a place where where you can. And that's it for the show today. I hope you enjoyed this Christmas special, this end of the year holiday special episode of the Project Management for the Masses podcast. And I wish you and your family a blessed Christmas, a wonderful holiday season, and I will speak to you again in 2015. And until then, remember that your life is a project and you are the manager. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
Tune in next week for more great ideas on how to manage your projects better and truly stand out in your industry.
PMforthemasses.com